What's up everyone, it's Bones here. In today's video, we'll be reviewing the ban list as we just got a pretty sizable one, if you could tell through the forbidden section. And the first couple of cards that we have here are Agito and Kelbeck. I'm kind of happy that these are gone. Unfortunately, my vampire list suffers because Beatrice now can't send the Millers to trigger off the kingdom, but I guess that just means I search out the vampire domination. But enough about my vampire deck. The real hits to this are Kirliman stuff, which unfortunately doesn't get access to the Millers anymore. It still has the Shufflers, which is pretty nice for the deck. It's just that not being able to send all your tier names off of it is going to hurt the probability of this deck being able to do what it wants to do more often. That said, I think that there still are ways to play the deck without the Ishizu card. Even if the tier stuff is at 1, maybe we see just engines splashing tier names into their decks along with the shufflers in graveyard-based strategies alongside the Horus stuff. But that said, just cards that are long overdue because I didn't like what they did for deck building. A lot of decks require one of, maybe even two of that they have to play, and that if they mill, it becomes a big detriment to their strategy. And Agito and Kelbeck having the ability to weaken your opponent without them even having a turn and not even being part of the end board was just kind of too much in my opinion. Mathmech Circular is the surprising one where I just don't feel Cyberse was seeing a lot of play right now. Maybe Marincess here and there. I know that it got top 64 in YCS Bologna. There's also Salamangre, but none of those decks played Mathmech Circular. Seeing it on the ban list is kind of insane, but maybe it's for future-proofing whatever other Cyberse cards we may get in the future. That said, just a questionable hit now that it's been so much time since Cyberse has really been a deck, and I apologize to Cyberse players that may not wanted to see Mathmech Circular hit. But with that, we now finally have Isolde for the last card on the forbidden section, and this is a card that has been in the spotlight at many different times throughout its lifespan. From Goki Gumbler format, when this thing was enabling a bunch of combos that led into Firewall and stuff like that, being able to send your equip spells, get back the Phoenix Blade through banishing your warriors, the Rongo decks, same thing with the Goki deck. We then also currently have the Infernobles, which are taking advantage of that as well. And of course there's Rescue Ace, which is using this combo to further expand upon its board, made it kind of overbearing for where Isolde currently stood. And the stronger that in today's game get, the more broken that this card gets. So it's not something I'm surprised about to see here, but this is a move that also really hurts Infernoble players, so it'll be interesting to see how they adapt from this moving forward. Onto the limited section, we have Unchained Soul Sharvara, and I did not think that we would see this soon, seeing as this card came out just a few months ago, and Unchained hasn't had its sunlight in the meta for so long, even though the deck has been around for a while, and I totally understand the concept of limiting it. It was just a matter of when. The same thing with Rescue Ace Airlifter, one being for consistency here along with the emergency and stuff that didn't end up on the ban list, but the Sharvara in general being able to be an extender that you can also quick effect pop one of your own Unchains to play around hand traps and stuff like that, get it on board. It's a level 6 that also gets you a set when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, or if it's sent to the graveyard, I forget which one it is, but just the amount of pluses that this card got you along with the ability to further advance your board made this card a bit overbearing, and it's unfortunate for the Unchained players. This was a matter of when, not if. Then we do have the Redox Dragon Ruler of Boulders, and it's cool seeing the Dragon Rulers come back. We've seen this in Master Duels. I think that they were doing it in the OCG too. I don't really think that this will do anything in today's current game, seeing as we just don't have the support cards to really make this type of deck go, especially with the few rulers that we have at 1. Not surprised here. Then we have Orcust Harpor, and I absolutely love that we're getting this back to 1. Orcust is a deck that's far past its prime. It's something that I don't think is going to take over the meta or cause a lot of decks to play Harpor like we saw previously, where a bunch of decks were just splashing in an Orcust engine, ending on Galatea along with your counter trap or field spell in order to make your board stronger. I just don't see that in today's game. Maybe it happens with some Orcust variants like Horus and stuff like that, but I just don't think that that is enough to warrant it being on the ban list, so I'm totally happy to see this at 1. Then we have Gozen Match, Rivalry of Warlords, and There Can Be Only One. These are 3 cards that absolutely needed to be at a number way less than 3, just because too many combo decks were playing these cards in order to lock their wins, floodgating your opponent while building a big board, very specific answers to your board, and I just wasn't a fan of that type of gameplay. Now, I would have liked to also see Anti-Spell get limited, maybe even Shifter, but seeing these cards at 1 is a step in the right direction, and I just can't complain about it. There's also Sun Avalon, Dryas, and Healer, and I was not expecting either of these to end up on the limited list, if I'm being honest. Maybe Dryas, considering that we had seen some previous success at the European YCSs with the Sun Avalon deck. Because of these hits, the deck is a lot more fragile now. Only having one of the Link 1 is kind of scary if you're a plant player, and I'm surprised that this happened considering we are getting futures plant support in the coming months. It'll be interesting to see where the deck goes off from here. Then we do have Ib, the World Chalice Justiciar, and it's a level 5 synchro that is going to enable a ton of stuff. Just being able to get yourself the quick play that special summons out the 9s is going to do a lot for decks like Runic that has Sleep Near, gives you easy rank 9 access. There's also the Generator deck that I've seen people trying to play again. We got Vera not too long ago as well, which makes Ib an even more interesting card, seeing there's so much potential in regards to its combo ability now. I'm just interested to see what the player base does with this card because of its flexibility and how many decks that this can splash into. But then finally we have Snatch Steal, and Snatch Steal is a very interesting card to be back at 1 with the ban of Isolde. It can't be sent off Isolde. The last time that they brought this back was in 2014 around Necros format, and back then it was much more powerful because you didn't have as many answers to it back then, and you were forced to kind of just hard draw them. And because of that, it got immediately put back on the ban list after 1 format. In today's game, where we just have a bunch of negates, we have Change of Heart at 1, we have Mind Control at 1. Now that we have Snatch Steal, I think it's cool, but we'll see where it goes for this format. I won't spend too much time on that. It's something that we have to see get play first before we really judge how good it is in this format. Then we have semi-limited section with purely Sleepy Memory. This is something I wish went to 1 instead of 2, but it's a start. Then we have the Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This was something that people were predicting could come back to 2 or 3, and honestly I hope it kind of stays at 2. My problem with Pankratops in general is Pankratops isn't only a going second card. There's going to be decks that can bring this out on turn 1, whether it be reviving it from the graveyard through some random method or special summoning it from the hand via something that they can use from their own archetype. And I'm not talking about anything that may be out right now, but there's going to be cards that come out over time that help Pankratops be a good going first and second card. And when you see Pankratops on your opponent's turn, when they're going first, that is when Pankratops starts to teeter on the line of really annoying, because it's a tough disruption to play through. And maybe I'm overstating how good this card is, but I would be lying if I said it didn't scare me a little. And with that, we then have Speedroid Terror Top, and this is another really cool card to see come back to 2, seeing as there's a lot of decks like Phantom Knight, Burning Abyss that can pull off playing this. Then there's also Speedroids, which they still have their Kashtira Unicorns and stuff like that, so the deck can still play. That's really interesting and good for Speedroid players. And then finally we have the Unlimited section. Infernity Archfiend, I have always wanted to see this, and seeing it back at 3 is definitely cool for the archetype. We'll be interested to see all the combo videos that come out of this. Then there's Kashtira Unicorn. This is a card that's no surprise to see back at 3 just because it's a Rise Heart band and Mind Hacker band. Nobody's really playing this deck. It's just a Floodgate deck at this point, and now we have There Can Be Only One, Gozen, and Rivalry all at 1. Then we have Mind Control to 3, and the last time this was at 3, it ended up at 1 because of how strong it was as a going second card. We'll be interested to see if that happens again. 3 Spellbook of Judgment, something that is not surprising but kind of cool to see just because of how many years it's been. Spellbooks will definitely get a boost off this, but I don't think it's going to break them by any means. It's still a relatively slow deck that probably needs some of that treatment that Konami gave Lightsworns recently. But then we have 3 Upstart Goblin, and this is something else I never thought I would see again, seeing as Konami just didn't want people playing 37 cards in their deck, and now that we have 3 upstarts, we're able to do so again. Then the 3 copies of Pot of Desires, and I think that this is another card that people wanted at 3. I'm kind of sad we didn't get a hit to Prosperity on this ban list, but I understand why, for financial reasons. And then finally we have Bright Starter, and I never thought we would see this go to 3 before 1. But now that it's at 3, I guess it just gives a boost to Sprite, which did need it. Wrapping up, a bit of a format warping ban list just to start the new year, as you can see that it's going to be effective from the 1st of January. So for everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 600 plus subs. If you have any suggestions and stuff that you would like to see below from the ban list, leave those comments below. I'll read them and start making videos on it. That said, happy ban list day. It's Bones, signing out.